Elon Musk is making headlines in the UK once again, this time for wading into British politics. The billionaire entrepreneur and owner of the social media platform Twitter, now known as X, has seemingly thrown his weight behind Reform UK, who have been gaining momentum in recent months. This week, former Conservative MP Andrea Jenkins announced her defection to Nigel Farage's Reform UK. The move sent ripples throughout the political landscape, with Musk amplifying the announcement on X. His response? A simple but bold statement. Yes, in reply to claims that Reform UK could win the next general election. Musk's endorsement adds fuel to the fire as the party builds momentum. Reform UK gained 5 MPs during July's general election and has been making inroads in council by-elections across Scotland recently, securing third place in Glasgow behind Labour and the SNP. At the same time, Musk joined in on sharing a petition calling for another general election. The petition has garnered over 2.8 million signatures that has faced criticism for its origins and those promoting it, with the Scottish Greens labelling it a tool for the far-right conspiracy theorists, racists and people like Elon Musk. Prime Minister Keir Starmer was quick to dismiss the petition. Speaking on ITV this morning, Starmer said, "Very many people didn't vote Labour at the last election. I'm not surprised they want a rerun, but this isn't how our system works." Meanwhile, Sky News host Kay Burley took direct aim at Musk, urging him to butt out of UK politics. Musk's ownership of X has already been mired in controversy, with critics accusing him of allowing far-right conspiracy theories to flourish on the platform. Musk's support for Nigel Farage's party comes at the same time as the leader hailing a champagne moment after Deputy Leader Ben Habib chose to sever his contract with the populist party. Tensions between the two appeared to arise following changes to Reform's leadership structure after the general election. Farage has since expressed his satisfaction at Habib's departure, calling it the absolute icing on the cake, before claiming that a bitter Habib attacked him more than the Labour Party have. In an interview on GB News, Farage went on to say that Habib's departure was a huge relief.
Also, other big news from Reform UK today as well, Dame Andrea Jenkins. You've announced her as a defection and an upcoming mayoral candidate. Tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, Andrea's been a very loyal Tory MP. She very much hoped that Robert Jenrick would win the leadership election campaign because Jenrick had very much come to my position. It was like a tribute act, really, that we should leave the ECHR, reduce net migration down to pretty much zero. But of course, he lost. Kemi Badenoch has won. She gave an absolutely farcical press conference yesterday afternoon. And remember, these figures today are the responsibility of that Conservative government. And so Andrea said, look, I think Reform, is where my heart is. So she's joined us and she will stand for us for the newly created position of Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire. And I think she's got a very good chance of winning.
What would you say, I have to ask you as well, you've got Andrea Jenkins in. One of the things that many GB News viewers have been in touch about is Ben Habib. What's happened there for anyone that's not followed that twist and turn?
Yeah. Well, that was the real champagne moment of the day. I mean, it was a good day, but Ben Habib announcing he's not with us really was the absolute icing on the cake. Look, after the election, Ben didn't get elected, other people did, and he and David Bull had been the deputy leaders under Richard Tice. And I said, Ben, David, I'm really sorry, but I want to make Richard Tice the deputy because he's in the House of Commons. He will literally deputise for me when he's there and I'm travelling around the country. And David Bull accepted that and is very much a part of the organisation. And poor old Ben felt bitter about it. And he's attacked me more in public than the Labour Party have. He's gone very bitter, very twisted. It's very sad. The fact that he's walked away, frankly, is a huge relief.
Ben Habib aired his grievances with Reform UK on Martin Daubney's show, making it clear that the timing of his announcement wasn't cynical in the way that it coincided with Andrea Jenkins' defection.
First question I've got to ask you is, what drove you to quit like this and why did you do it so publicly?
Well, the final straw for me, the major issue here was some ideological differences with the party, but essentially the party, in my view, not really democratizing. They promised they would democratize Zia Youssef, and I'm glad you got Christopher there because he did a brilliant interview with Zia Youssef on the 22nd of August when Zia said he had the finest legal minds working day and night to produce a constitution that would democratize the party. And actually, when that constitution turned up, it was a reheated document from 2022, which I'd already rejected. It had been changed a bit, but I doubt very much it had any legal minds. having looked at it, given the way that it was drafted. And the other promise that Nigel himself made was that the party, which is a limited company, would be converted from one limited by shares to one limited by guarantee. And actually, legally, that's not possible. You can't convert a company limited by shares to one limited by guarantee. And indeed, no applications have been made to the Electoral Commission for any change in structure. And the democratization issue is fundamental to me for reasons that I hope I made plain in my little tweet and video that I put out this morning. And the final straw, I think, for me, with the party seemingly not being prepared to democratize and saying and doing things with which I don't wholly agree, but one could have, had those debates with the party. But the final straw for me was hearing in the last few days that HQ at Reform had told branches, people with whom I've campaigned shoulder to shoulder, people who joined the party because of the leadership that was being delivered by Richard and myself. We galvanized this movement. People that I knew so well had been banned from hearing from me. And I thought, well, if the party takes the view that the people that I've galvanized into this movement alongside Richard shouldn't hear from me, then it's time to leave the party.
OK, Ben, my next question is quite straightforward. Why did you do it today? Today was a day where the 100,000th member was announced. That was Dame Andrea Jenkins. This is a day of fast forward, of action, of positivity for reform. A lot of people are saying, was your timing cynical to try and damage the party on what should have been a good news day?
No, it wasn't cynical. Of course, it wasn't cynical. I wanted to make sure Christopher had an opportunity at I didn't know what was being announced today. It was obviously secret until it was announced. But I did want Christopher to have an opportunity to question Zaire in public on the declarations that he made on the 22nd of August for the Constitution, which hasn't been delivered, no applications of the Electoral Commission, and indeed to question Nigel on the declaration that you can convert a company limited by shares to one limited by guarantee when you can't do it. These are fundamental issues. These are not things of semantics. They're fundamental points of difference.
Okay, well, Chris Hope's here now. I'd like to fire a question at you as well.
Ben, if we go back to basics here, is there any single policy you don't agree with the reform on at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, there are a number of areas that I don't agree on. The first, and perhaps the most basic, and again, it's not semantics, is I don't think Brexit's been done. And Nigel, the leader of Reform, says Brexit's been done, but we just simply haven't put enough distance between ourselves and the EU. And at no level can I agree with that declaration because we've left Northern Ireland behind. What we voted for was for the UK to leave the EU, not for Great Britain to leave.
Okay.
And we're hitched at the hip with the EU in a whole load of areas, including net zero, ECHR, etc.
It's just for me. You're talking about companies and democracy, and we get that. The Tory party is hardly very democratic, and I've been covering that one for 20 years. I mean, for me, is this not about egos? Does it not go back to the brass tacks that you aren't at the top of the party, other people are? They're there because they're MPs, you aren't an MP, you want people to listen to you, and then you haven't got those top roles in the party, and that's why you're off.
No, Chris, I couldn't care less whether I've got a top role in the party or not. I was extremely reluctant to join Reform. I didn't want to be in a political party. I'm quite capable of campaigning outside a political party, and I've got no desire to get my bum on a green seat. If getting my bum on a green seat helped the country from the precipice on which it helped save the country from the precipice on which I think it is now standing, then I would put my bum on a green seat. But that's not my aim in life. I'm 59 years old. I run a perfectly good business. I'm well off. I'm doing this because I have an absolute belief that the country is facing an existential threat constitutionally, democratically, economically, and culturally. I'm not in it for political advancement. I don't really. I use the media to the extent that I need to in order to deliver my message. I'm not hooked on the media. And so, no, that's not the right answer.
After a busy few days of ins and outs for Reform UK, all eyes will now be watching to see if more defections are to come, and just how much influence one US billionaire can have on democracy.